There comes a point where staying visible starts costing you more than disappearing ever could. You keep answering messages, explaining your pain, proving your intentions, showing up for people who barely notice your silence. And somewhere in the noise, you lose the person you were trying to become. Not because you are weak, not because you failed, but because you kept trying to rebuild yourself in places that kept breaking you. Sometimes, the strongest move is not to announce a new chapter. It is to go quiet, step back, and let your life become private construction. 6 months can change everything when you stop performing and start repairing. Your body, your discipline, your mind, your standards, your future. Stay until the end, because this is not about vanishing from life. It is about returning as someone your old excuses can no longer recognize. There comes a point where the noise around you becomes impossible to ignore, not because the world got louder, but because you finally got tired of pretending you could live this way. You wake up, and before your feet touch the floor, you already feel behind. Your phone is full. Your mind is full. Your chest feels heavy for reasons you cannot explain in one sentence. People still expect the same version of you to show up, reply, smile, work, listen, help, explain, and keep moving like nothing inside you is breaking. But something is breaking, not in a dramatic way, not in a way everyone can see. It breaks quietly, in the way you stop caring about things that used to matter, in the way you delay everything because your energy is gone before the day begins, in the way you keep saying, I just need to get through this week, even though every week starts looking the same. And the hardest part is this. Deep down, you already know. You know the way you are living is costing you something. You know the people you keep entertaining do not always deserve access to you. You know the habits you keep repeating are not harmless anymore. You know the version of you that keeps laughing things off is actually tired of being ignored by you. That pain you feel is not just sadness, it is information. It is your life telling you that the person you are becoming cannot survive inside the patterns you keep defending. Maybe you have been showing up to a job that drains you, not because you are weak, but because you are responsible. Bills are real. Family pressure is real. The fear of starting over is real. So you keep going. You sit at your desk, answer messages, finish tasks, act normal, and then come home with nothing left for yourself. You tell people you are fine because explaining the truth would take too much energy. Then one evening, you look around your room and realize you have not really lived today. You only performed. You did what was required. You avoided falling apart. You made it through. But making it through is not the same as being alive. That moment hurts because it removes the lie. And once the lie is gone, you cannot fully go back. This is where the idea of disappearing begins. Not disappearing to punish people. Not disappearing to make them wonder where you went. Not disappearing because you hate the world. But disappearing because the world has had too much access to a version of you that does not even respect itself anymore. You do not need to explain every boundary before you build it. You do not need to announce every change before you make it. Sometimes the most honest thing you can do is become unavailable to the things that keep pulling you away from yourself. Disappearing is not running away when the place you are leaving is your own self-abandonment. It is stepping back from the conversations that keep you small. It is closing the apps that keep feeding your insecurity. It is refusing to keep proving yourself to people who only notice you when you are useful. It is going quiet long enough to hear what your life has been trying to tell you. Because the pain is not there to destroy you, it is there to interrupt you. It is there to make you stop agreeing with a life that keeps draining your focus, your dignity, your discipline, and your self-respect. It is there to tell you that something has to change before you become completely numb to your own potential. And maybe this is the first honest decision you have made in a long time, not to disappear from life, but to disappear from the version of you that keeps choosing comfort over growth, distraction over discipline, approval over peace, and survival over self-respect. This pain is not the end of you. It is the moment you finally stop negotiating with the part of you that keeps letting you down. The more you explain yourself to the wrong people, the less you hear yourself clearly. You start with one sentence, then you add another, then another. You try to make them understand why you need space. Why are you changing? Why can't you keep living the same way? Why are you tired? Why are you choosing yourself? This time. And before you realize it, you are standing in front of someone who never wanted clarity. They wanted access. They wanted you unsure. Because when you are confused, you are easier to interrupt, easier to guilt, easier to pull back into the same version of yourself that kept everyone comfortable except you. You know that feeling. You make one decision for your peace, and suddenly you feel like you are in court. You have to defend why you are not answering every call, why you are working late on your own goals, why you are saving money instead of spending it to impress people, why you are not available for the same conversations, the same habits, the same emotional drama. And the strange part is, you begin to explain things you already know are true. You explain your exhaustion to people who helped create it. You explain your boundaries to people who crossed them. You explain your ambition to people who quietly hope you never outgrow them. You explain your silence to people who only valued your voice when it served them. That is not communication anymore. That is self-betrayal dressed up as politeness. There comes a moment when you have to ask yourself, why am I trying so hard to be understood by people who gain something from misunderstanding me? Because some people do not need more explanation. They need your uncertainty to continue. They need you to keep talking so they can keep negotiating. They need you to keep defending your decision so they can make you doubt it. Maybe you have experienced this at home. You tell your family you want to focus, save money, change your routine, stop going out, wake up earlier, build something serious. At first, they laugh a little, then they question you. Then they remind you of who you used to be. You always quit. You said this before. Why are you acting different now? And even if they do not mean to hurt you, their words can pull you back into an old identity you were trying to leave. So, you explain. You tell them your plan. You show them your reasons. You try to prove that this time is different. But while you are busy explaining your future, you are losing the energy you need to build it. That is the trap. Over-explaining feels like responsibility, but sometimes it is fear. Fear of being judged. Fear of being disliked. Fear of disappointing people. Fear that your decision is not real unless someone else approves it. But your next chapter does not need public permission before it begins. You do not need everyone to understand your discipline before you practice it. You do not need everyone to respect your boundary before you keep it. You do not need everyone to believe in your goal before you work on it in silence. Some changes are too fragile to keep showing to people who mishandle them. At the beginning, your focus needs protection. Your confidence needs privacy. Your new habits need room to grow without being stepped on by every opinion in the room. So stop handing your plans to people who turn them into arguments. Stop giving long explanations to people who are committed to seeing you the old way. Stop trying to sound reasonable to those who only respect you when you are easy to control. You can be respectful without being available. You can be quiet without being guilty. You can make a decision without inviting a debate. And when they ask why you changed, you do not have to open your whole heart for inspection. Let your consistency answer slowly. Let your peace explain what your mouth no longer needs to defend. Because the day you stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from your confusion is the day your life stops asking for approval and starts moving with direction. If your peace can be destroyed by one message, one opinion, one bad night, or one person walking back into your life, then what you have is not peace yet. It is a moment of quiet waiting to be taken from you. And that is why you cannot rebuild yourself in the same open space where you kept getting pulled apart. You need structure now, not because you hate people, not because you want to become cold, not because loneliness is some badge of strength. You need structure because the part of you that is trying to change is still fragile. It is still learning how to stand. It is still learning how to choose discipline when comfort is available. It is still learning how to trust itself after so many broken promises. And fragile progress cannot survive constant interruption. You already know what happens when your life has no walls around it. You wake up late because you slept with your phone in your hand. You check one notification, then another. Then suddenly your mind belongs to everyone else before the day even begins. You tell yourself you will work on your goal, but someone calls. Someone needs something. Someone starts drama. Someone sends a message that pulls your emotions into a place you never planned to go. And by the time the day ends, you are exhausted, but not from building. Ling your life. You are exhausted from reacting to everyone else's. That is not freedom. That is being available without direction. So when you disappear, you cannot just disappear into silence. Silence without structure becomes overthinking. Isolation without purpose becomes loneliness. Distance without discipline becomes another room where the same old habits follow you. You need a life no one can easily interrupt. That starts with small, serious decisions. Sleeping at a time that respects tomorrow. Waking up before the world starts demanding your attention. Training your body even when your mood does not agree. Reading something that sharpens your mind instead of feeding your insecurity. Working on the thing you said mattered before the day steals your focus. This is not about creating a perfect routine. It is about creating internal safety, because when your days have structure, your emotions stop running the entire system. You no longer wait to feel strong before you act strong. You no longer need motivation to do what your future depends on. You stop asking, Do I feel like it? And start asking, what kind of person am I becoming if I keep choosing this? Imagine you come home after a long day at work. You are tired. Your feet hurt. Your mind is crowded. The old version of you would drop everything, scroll for 2 hours, answer messages that do not matter, eat whatever is easiest, and tell yourself tomorrow will be different. But this time, something changes. You put your phone away for 1 hour, just one. You drink water. You clean the small mess on your desk. You open your notebook. You write down what needs to be done. You work for 30 quiet minutes on the goal you keep hiding from people because part of you is scared. They will laugh if you fail again. Nothing dramatic happens. No one claps. No one notices. No one sends you a reward for choosing yourself. But inside, something shifts. You realize discipline is not always loud. Sometimes it is just you, alone in a room, refusing to abandon yourself for the 100th time. That is how a protected life begins. Not with a huge announcement, not with a complete transformation overnight. It begins when you make your environment harder for the old you to survive in. You stop keeping your phone beside your bed because you know your weakness. You stop telling everyone your plans because you know your focus needs privacy. You stop staying up with people who have no respect for mourning. You stop treating your body like it can carry endless stress without consequences. You build walls, not to trap yourself, but to protect what is growing. A routine is a wall. Sleep is a wall. Training is a wall. Deep work is a wall. Reading is a wall. Saying no without guilt is a wall. Leaving some messages unanswered until your real work is done is a wall. And every wall tells your old life, you do not get unlimited access anymore. This is where you begin to feel safe inside yourself. Not because life becomes easy, but because you stop handing your attention to every distraction that knocks. You stop living as if your future can wait while everyone else's emotions come first. The world will still be loud. People will still misunderstand. Problems will still appear. But now, they meet a different version of you. A version with a morning. A version with standards. A version with a body that moves. A mind that reads. A room that supports focus. And a schedule that does not collapse every time someone else wants access. You are not isolating because you are broken. You are building because you are finally serious. And once your life has structure, interruption starts feeling less like power and more like a test you no longer have to fail. The hardest person to sit with is not the person who hurt you, doubted you, left you, or misunderstood you. It is the version of you that knows the truth, the version of you that watched you waste another night and said nothing, the version of you that knew you were making excuses while calling it rest, the version of you that felt the disappointment every time you promised, tomorrow I will start, and then let tomorrow become another place to hide. You can distract yourself from many things. You can stay busy. You can scroll until your mind goes numb. You can blame timing, family pressure, money, stress, people, heartbreak, bad luck, and the way life has treated you. And some of those things may be real. Some of those things may have hurt you deeply. But there is still one question waiting in the quiet. What are you doing with the part that is still in your control? That question is uncomfortable because it removes the audience. It takes away the people you normally point to. It brings you back into the room with yourself, where there are no arguments left, only patterns. And maybe that is what you have been avoiding. Not success, not discipline, not hard work. You have been avoiding the moment where you finally admit, I am not only tired because life is hard. I am tired because I keep betraying the person I say I want to become. That is a painful sentence to face, but it is also the beginning of your freedom, because shame keeps you stuck. But honesty gives you a door. You do not need to hate yourself to change. You do not need to insult yourself into becoming stronger. You do not need to replay every failure like punishment. But you do need to stop protecting the excuses that are quietly destroying your self-respect. You know the small promises you keep breaking. You say you will sleep earlier, then you stay awake feeding your anxiety. You say you will save money, then you spend from emotion and regret it later. You say you will focus, then you open your phone every time the work starts to feel serious. You say you are done with old habits. Then you return to them the moment loneliness walks into the room. And each time, the damage is not only in the action. The deeper damage is that you stop trusting yourself. You start hearing your own plans like background noise. You stop believing your own words. You become the person who needs motivation because commitment no longer feels believable. That is how silent disappointment grows. Not from one big failure, but from hundreds of small moments where you left yourself behind. Think about the person who comes home from work exhausted, with a goal sitting quietly in the corner of the room. Maybe it is a course they need to finish. Maybe it is a business idea. Maybe it is training, writing, studying, applying for better jobs, fixing their health, or rebuilding their money. They look at it every night. They know it matters. But instead of starting, they say, "I had a hard day." And it is true. The day was hard. So they sit down. They pick up the phone. 10 minutes becomes an hour. An hour becomes the whole evening. Then midnight comes, and with it comes that familiar heaviness. Not because they rested, but because they escaped. And in that quiet moment before sleep, they feel it. I could have done something. Not everything, not a perfect transformation, not a full life rebuild in one night, just something. That is the version of yourself you have to face. The one who is not asking for perfection, the one who is only asking you to stop disappearing when it is time to choose yourself. Ownership does not mean everything is your fault. It means your future is too important to leave in the hands of what happened to you. Yes, people may have failed you. Yes, life may have delayed you. Yes, fear may have shaped you in ways you did not ask for. But if you keep using your pain as permission to stay the same, then the thing that hurt you becomes the thing that controls you. And you are not here to be controlled by old wounds. You are here to become responsible for your patterns. That means looking at the procrastination without dressing it up, looking at the emotional escapes without calling them peace, looking at the broken promises without making yourself the victim every time, looking at your distractions and finally admitting, "This is not helping me heal. This is helping me avoid myself." That moment will not feel easy. It may feel like guilt at first, then sadness, then anger, then silence. But stay there. Do not run from the mirror just because it shows you what needs work. The mirror is not your enemy. It is the first place where the lying stops. And when the lying stops, your energy comes back. Because now you are not fighting reality anymore. You are not wasting strength defending habits that weaken you. You are not asking the world to change before you do one honest thing for yourself. You are standing there, finally awake, finally responsible, finally willing to say, "This is my pattern, and it ends with me." That is not shame. That is power returning to its owner. At some point, you have to admit that the chaos is not only happening around you. Some of it is being fed by you, not because you want to suffer, not because you enjoy being tired, disappointed, distracted, and emotionally drained, but because when your life has been loud for long enough, peace can feel unfamiliar. Stillness can feel empty. Discipline can feel too quiet. So, without realizing it, you start reaching for the very things that keep you unstable. You check the message you know will disturb you. You reopen the conversation that never brings peace. You keep explaining yourself to someone who keeps twisting your words. You stay involved in problems that are not yours to solve. You scroll through people's lives, compare yourself, feel behind, feel angry, feel small, and then call it a normal night. But it is not normal. It is a pattern. Drama becomes addictive when your life has no clear direction, because drama gives you something to feel. It gives you urgency without progress. It gives you movement without growth. It lets you be busy without being responsible for the thing you keep avoiding. And that is the dangerous P. Art. You can spend years reacting to everything and still not build anything. Every notification becomes an emergency. Every opinion becomes personal. Every small inconvenience becomes proof that life is against you. And while your attention is being dragged from one emotional fire to another, the quiet work that would actually change your life keeps waiting. Your body waits. Your mind waits. Your goals wait. Your self-respect waits. And deep down, you know it. You know there is a version of you that does not need all this noise. A version of you that would rather wake up on time than stay up arguing. A version of you that would rather train in silence than complain about feeling weak. A version of you that would rather save money quietly than impress people loudly. A version of you that would rather become focused than keep being emotionally available to every distraction. But that version cannot grow in constant drama. It needs repetition. It needs boring days. It needs you to do the same small things again and again until your nervous system finally believes you are safe with yourself. Maybe your life right now looks simple from the outside. You go to work, you come home tired, you have bills, responsibilities, family pressure, and private worries nobody sees. At night, when the house gets quiet, you have a choice. You can pick up your phone and enter the same cycle again. The messages, the scrolling, the comparison, the anger, the late night regret. Or you can do something different. You can put the phone across the room. You can wash your face. You can prepare your clothes for tomorrow. You can spend 20 minutes learning a skill, cleaning your space, stretching your body, reading a few pages, or planning your money instead of escaping from it. No one may notice. It may not feel powerful at first. In fact, it may feel boring. That is where many people quit. They are so used to emotional intensity that discipline feels like nothing is happening. But something is happening. You are teaching yourself that your life does not need to be dramatic to be meaningful. You are proving that progress does not always arrive with excitement. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet evening where you finally do what you said you would do. That is how confidence comes back, not from talking about change, not from waiting for a perfect mood, not from winning every battle in one day. Confidence comes from evidence. It comes from the small proof you give yourself when you keep a promise nobody forced you to make. You said you would wake up earlier, and you did. You said you would stop replying during your focus time, and you did. You said you would not spend money just to feel better for 10 minutes, and you did not. You said you would train, study, clean, write, apply, practice, save, or rest properly. And even though part of you wanted the old escape, you stayed with the new standard. That is not boring. That is self-respect being rebuilt. Drama steals self-respect because it keeps making you act beneath your own awareness. Discipline gives it back because it aligns your actions with what you know is right. And once you feel that alignment, you start craving peace more than attention. You start choosing progress over reaction. You stop needing chaos to feel alive because your life finally has direction. Let the old version of you keep looking for intensity. You are learning something stronger now. You are learning how to become steady. And the moment discipline becomes more familiar than drama, you stop being controlled by what disturbs you and start being shaped by what strengthens you. You cannot keep asking your mind to be strong while your body is begging to be cared for. At some point, the tiredness is not only emotional. The heaviness is not only in your thoughts. The low confidence is not only about what happened to you. Sometimes your body has been carrying years of stress, poor sleep, rushed meals, long hours, bad posture, no movement and silent tension. And you keep wondering why your mind feels weak inside a body that has been neglected for too long. You are not broken, but you may be undermaintained. And that is a hard truth to face, because when life hurts, the body is often the first place you abandon. You stop moving. You stop eating like you respect yourself. You stay up late with your thoughts. You wake up tired and call it normal. You sit for hours with your shoulders rounded, your breathing shallow, your phone in your hand, your future somewhere in the background. Then you look in the mirror and feel disappointed, not only with how you look, but with how far you feel from yourself. That moment can feel painful, but it can also become a turning point, because rebuilding your body is not about chasing perfection. It is not about becoming someone people admire from the outside. It is about proving, in the most physical way, that you are worth care, effort, structure, and respect. Your body is not just something, energy to improve. It is the place where your comeback has to live every day. If your body is constantly exhausted, your thoughts will become darker. If your sleep is broken, your discipline will feel heavier. If you never move, your emotions can start to feel trapped. If you feed yourself like your life does not matter, eventually your mind starts believing the same message. So the work becomes simple, but not easy. You move because your mind needs circulation, not just motivation. You eat in a way that supports your energy, not just your cravings. You sleep because tomorrow deserves a version of you that is not already defeated. You stand straighter because posture is sometimes the first quiet signal that you are no longer collapsing into life. Think about the person who wakes up after another late night. Their alarm rings, and the first thought is already heavy. I can't do this today. They reach for the phone, scroll for a few minutes, compare their life to everyone else's, and before the day has even started, they feel behind. But one morning, they make a different choice, not a dramatic one. They sit up, they put the phone down, they drink water, they step outside for a short walk, even if it is only 10 minutes. Their body feels stiff, their mind complains. Nothing magical happens, but as they keep walking, the world feels a little less tight. Their breathing gets deeper, their head clears slightly. For the first time in a while, they are not trying to think their way out of pain, they are moving through it. That is how rebuilding begins. Not with punishment, with participation. You stop treating your body like an object that failed you and start treating it like a partner that has been waiting for your attention. You train, not because you hate what you see, but because you are done feeling powerless inside yourself. You choose better food, not because you need to be perfect, but because your energy matters. You rest, not because you are lazy, but because recovery is part of becoming stable. You fix your posture, clean your space, stretch your back, walk after a hard day, breathe before reacting, and slowly your body starts sending a new message back to your mind. I am here with you. That message matters, because self-respect is not only built in big decisions. Sometimes it is built in the quiet moment when you choose a proper meal instead of neglect, when you go to sleep instead of punishing yourself with another empty hour, when you train even lightly because you promised you would, when you stop using stress as permission to abandon your own health. And over time, something changes. You begin to feel less like a person trying to escape yourself, and more like a person returning home to yourself. Your body becomes proof that you are no longer waiting to be rescued. Every walk, every rep, every glass of water, every night of honest rest becomes evidence. You are not just thinking about change anymore. You are carrying it in your breathing, your posture, your eyes, your energy, your presence. The world may still be heavy, but you are not meeting it from the same weakened place. You are building a body that can hold focus, carry discipline, survive disappointment, and support the mind that is learning how to believe again. And when you finally start caring for the place your life lives, you stop feeling like a stranger inside yourself and begin to move like someone who is worth fighting for. The silence feels different when you do not know who you are without someone watching. At first, being alone does not feel peaceful and feels like being forgotten. You sit in your room, phone beside you, waiting for a message that proves you still matter. You check if they viewed your story. You look at your notifications again, even though nothing changed. You tell yourself you are just bored, but deep down, something heavier is happening. You are not only missing people, you are missing the version of yourself that felt real when someone else was paying attention. That is why solitude can feel so uncomfortable in the beginning. It removes the noise you are using to avoid yourself. No conversations to hide inside, no one to impress, no one to entertain, no emotional drama to make you feel needed. Just you, your thoughts, your habits, your fears, and the quiet truth of how much of your identity has been built around being seen. And that truth can hurt, because maybe you have spent years mistaking attention for connection. You replied quickly because you were afraid silence would make people leave. You stayed available because being needed made you feel valuable. You laughed when you wanted to be serious. You accepted less than you deserved because at least it was something. At least someone was there. At least the room did not feel empty. But there is a difference between being alone and being abandoned. Being abandoned means someone left you without care. Being alone means you finally have space to stop leaving why. Ourself. That distinction matters, because when you do not understand it, every quiet evening feels like rejection. Every unanswered message feels like proof that you are not important. Every weekend without plans feels like failure. You start running back to people, conversations, habits, and places that do not respect you, not because they are good for you, but because they distract you from the fear of your own company. Think about a night after work when everyone seems busy. No one calls. No one asks how you are. You eat alone. The house is quiet. The old version of you would reach for anything to break the feeling. You would text someone who drains you. You would scroll until your mind becomes tired. You would open the same apps, look at the same lives, compare yourself to people who are not even thinking about you. And by the end of the night, you would not feel less lonely. You would feel more distant from yourself. But this time, you try something different. You let the silence stay. You clean your space slowly. You make a proper meal instead of eating whatever is easiest. You sit without rushing to be distracted. Maybe you write down what has been hurting you. Maybe you walk outside for 10 minutes. Maybe you finally admit, I keep looking for people to give me a feeling I have not learned how to give myself. That admission is not weakness. It is the beginning of inner stability, because the goal is not to become someone who needs nobody. That is not strength. That is another form of hiding. The goal is to become someone who can love people without needing them to rescue you from yourself. You can want connection without becoming desperate for validation. You can miss someone without running back to a place that weakened you. You can feel lonely without treating loneliness like an emergency. This is where solitude begins to change you. Slowly, your own presence stops feeling like punishment. You stop seeing an empty room as proof that something is wrong with you. You begin to realize that quiet can become a place where you recover, not a place where you disappear. You start learning your own rhythm. What helps you think clearly? What makes you anxious? What habits make you respect yourself more? What people only feel important because you are afraid of silence? What decisions you make when you are lonely? And what those decisions have been costing you? That is powerful information. Because once you can sit with yourself, you become harder to manipulate. You stop accepting poor treatment just to avoid an empty evening. You stop confusing constant communication with real love. You stop chasing people who only give you attention when they sense you pulling away. You begin to choose from steadiness, not hunger. And in that steadiness, something inside you matures. You realize you are not abandoned every time someone is absent. You are not worthless every time no one validates you. You are not behind because your life is quiet for a season. Maybe this quiet is not a punishment at all. Maybe it is the first honest space where you can hear your own life again. So stay there long enough to meet yourself, not the version that performs, not the version that begs to be chosen, not the version that fills every empty moment with noise. The real you, the one who is still there when the phone is silent, the one who can breathe without an audience, the one who can sit alone and finally understand, I am not being left behind, I am being returned to myself. And once your own presence stops feeling like abandonment, you no longer chase warmth from places that keep you cold. When you finally return, do not return as a performance. Do not return with noise. Do not return with a speech. Do not return trying to prove to everyone that you changed. Because if the work was real, you will not need to explain it. They will feel it in the way you move, the way you speak, the way you pause before answering, the way you no longer rush to be chosen by people who once made you question your worth. 6 months can change a person, but only when those 6 months are lived honestly. Not 6 months of pretending. Not 6 months of posting hints, not 6 months of secretly hoping certain people notice your absence. 6 months of waking up when nobody claps. 6 months of choosing discipline when your old habits still know your name. 6 months of sitting with silence, facing your patterns, rebuilding your body, protecting your focus, and learning how to stop abandoning yourself just to feel accepted for a moment. That kind of time does not make you louder. It makes you clearer, and clarity changes everything. You no longer walk into rooms looking for permission to exist. You no longer scan faces to see who approves of you. You no longer shrink your standards because someone is uncomfortable with your growth. You no longer confuse being wanted with being respected. That is the real return, not revenge. Maturity, because revenge still means they are at the center of your transformation. Revenge still means your growth is being shaped by the people who hurt you, ignored you, doubted you, or misunderstood you. And you have already given too much of your life to people who were never responsible enough to hold your peace. This time, you come back for yourself. You come back with a calmer voice because you no longer need to win every argument. You come back with stronger boundaries because you finally understand that access to you is not a casual thing. You come back with a different schedule, different habits, different priorities, and a different relationship with your own attention. Some people will notice. They will notice that you do not respond as quickly. They will notice that you no longer explain every decision. They will notice that certain jokes do not reach you anymore. They will notice that guilt does not move you like it used to. They will notice that your energy is harder to disturb, and some of them will not like it, because they were comfortable with the version of you who overexplained, the version of you who stayed available even when you were tired, the version of you who softened every boundary so nobody felt rejected, the version of you who said yes while silently resenting yourself. That version of you made life easier for other people, but it made life heavier for you. So when you return with standards, do not be surprised if people call it distance. Do not be surprised if they say you changed like it is an accusation. Do not be surprised if they try to pull you back into the old role, the old conversation, the old guilt, the old emotional contract where you gave more than you had and asked for less than you needed. You do not need to fight them. You just do not go back. Imagine walking into a family gathering after months of being quiet. The old comments are still there. Someone asks why you are so serious now. Someone laughs about the goal you used to talk about. Someone tries to bring up your past like it is the only version of you they are willing to recognize. Before, you would have defended yourself. You would have explained your plan. You would have tried to make them understand your discipline, your pain, your silence, your progress. You would have felt your chest tighten because part of you still needed them to see you correctly. But this time, you do something different. You breathe. You smile calmly, not to hide pain, but because you no longer feel invited into every misunderstanding. You do not give a long answer. You do not hand them the blueprint of your private work. You do not argue with people who only know how to measure you by the version they benefited from. You simply stay steady. And later, when you go home, you do not collapse into doubt. You do not replay every sentence. You do not punish yourself for being misunderstood. You return to your routine. You prepare for tomorrow. You sleep with the quiet knowledge that your life is no longer being managed by other people's reactions. That is transformation. It is not always dramatic from the outside. Sometimes it looks like leaving on time. Sometimes it looks like not replying after a certain hour. Sometimes it looks like saving money instead of proving you can spend it. Sometimes it looks like choosing water, sleep, training, work, prayer, reading, silence, or order, when the old you would have chosen escape. The people waiting for a dramatic reveal may miss the whole thing. They may expect a new outfit, a louder voice, a bigger announcement, a visible victory, but the deepest changes often arrive quietly. They show up in what you no longer tolerate, what you no longer chase, what you no longer explain, what you no longer betray inside yourself. You do not return to show them what they lost. You return to show yourself what you gained. You gained the ability to be alone without feeling abandoned. You gained the strength to work without being watched. You gained the discipline to do what matters when nobody is impressed. You gained the courage to let people misunderstand you without handing them control of your identity. And most importantly, you gained yourself, not the version built for approval, not the version shaped by fear, not the version that kept lowering its voice, lowering its needs, lowering its standards, just to stay close to people who never truly saw you. The real you, the one who can be kind without being weak, calm without being passive, private without being lost, loving without being available for disrespect. So return quietly. Let your boundaries speak in your absence. Let your choices speak in your habits. Let your peace speak in your posture. Let your consistency speak louder than any explanation you used to give. Because the goal was never to impress people. The goal was to become someone who no longer abandons himself to be accepted. And once you become that person, you do not need the world to announce your arrival. You are already home inside yourself.